We've got some great guests on the show today and looking forward to talking with them. We're going to go through our Coach's Corner segment and, of course, some Grandpa B story time. So it's going to be a lot of fun for today's show. It's our second episode, and today's topic is just parents and their involvement in sport and culture. So as we work our way through the podcast, we're looking forward to unpacking some of that. But let's get right into it and welcome our guests today, Rowan and Natalie Calvert. Welcome, guys.
Thanks. Thank you.
How are things going with the summer? Like, you guys have had finish up your Western Hockey League year. Now you're back in Moose Jaw doing some training. Talk about your season in general.
I think we had a pretty good group. We ended up losing them to Winnipeg in the second round, playoffs again this year. We got a good group of guys that are coming back and a pretty good core, so we should be pretty well off again next year. And yeah, it's always nice coming back for the summer, seeing guys that you don't see all the time, and
right.
These guys you grew up with. And I mean, in this case, my bro this year, after being with the Blades all year, is pretty lonely at home by himself. So
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I'll let him talk a little bit about his season.
It was good. It was first year, obviously rookie year, 17-year-old. So it's a little different moving away from home for the first time and all that different dynamic. It's a rough schedule. It's a hard schedule. It's a lot of games. You know, you gotta get used to it. But we had a great group. We set a lot of franchise record for the team there. So we got to the third round, lost to the Ice as well. But yeah, it was a good year. I learned a lot, learned how to win in playoffs, learned a lot of things. So just excited to get back here, and it's fun to be golfing and training and, you know, seeing these guys again, and we'll be ready to go for next year. So
awesome. Talk about growing up in Moose Jaw and how, like, did you guys both grow up like dreaming of playing in the Western Hockey League, and then is that still obviously your dream to go on to the NHL? Like, talk about what that's like growing up as a minor hockey player with Moose Jaw, and just being a kid playing street hockey and whatnot. What's your journey been like from, say, 10 years old?
My first memory is going to the Warrior games with Grandpa Bob. Yeah, for sure. I think he would always take us to the Warrior games, and that was when the old Crush Can was there. We would go stand right by the glass, hang over the edge, and basically idolize those guys. I mean, you see some of them now walking around town, like, an example, Cody Beach. Like, we used to watch him when we were like 10 years old, and now, like, we see him all the time because he's obviously had a pretty successful career, and now he's on to reffing in the NHL, so it's pretty cool. I think that's kind of my first memory.
Your dream is the NHL, but first it's always the Western League, because growing up in Saskatchewan, the WHL, or I guess in this case Moose Jaw, the Warriors were the NHL to us. Like, yeah, the NHL was there, and we had our favorite teams, and we loved those guys, but it was always the Warriors and the Western League, and that was what you wanted to be, and everyone wanted to be, right? So we would go to the old Civic Center there, the Crush Can, and Grandpa Bob we didn't really have seats. He was he was on his own program, right? So he just stood at the glass in the zone where the Warriors shot twice, so the offensive zone twice, just normally the away area. I remember being super young when we first go, and I couldn't even see the game, but we were playing mini sticks and we loved it, right? So then you get fist bumps from the guys, or you get a little puck or a little stick, and it just like kind of makes your day. And that's like the thing that kind of keeps you going. And what kids growing up in the minor hockey system is, it's all the Warriors, and I think they do a good job of, you know, like bringing minor hockey teams out to those kind of things, and keeping the community like unified through sport. So
yeah. I mean, during minor hockey season, anytime the Warriors would come out and practice, one of the best days of the year. Growing up in Moose Jaw, I mean, you grow up with your friends. I still hang out with the same guys as I did when I played hockey with when I was 8. I mean, there's a couple new ones here and there, but looking back to how far we've all come, and I mean, we all basically are playing at different spots now, but at the end of the day, everyone's dreams is playing the NHL, right? And I think as you move further along, you realize how much harder it gets as you get closer and closer to your goal. I think if you keep pushing and keep your head down and don't look too far ahead, you'll be pretty well off with yourself.
So you guys go from being like there with Badger Bob at the games and watching, just trying to crawl like over the glass to see it, and now both you guys are playing the Western League, especially you're right here in Moose Jaw where you grew up. So it's not the Crush Can, the old barn, it's a new rink, so maybe it's a little bit different, but how do you feel that you can now give back to, like, knowing that there's other Calvert boys trying to look over the glass to look at this group of Western League guys? How does that make you guys feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. I think you kind of see how it comes full circle, right? I think, yeah, I mean, anytime at every game, after the game, the 3 stars come out, and there's a giant section of kids that are in warm-up. They got all the signs out, and you get recognized on the street once in a while, or you go and run. Like, me and my bro have been doing hockey camps out in Calvert, and kids more look up to you, and they have an idea who you are, and it's pretty cool. I think, and any chance that I can get to give back and give a little tip, or I don't know, sign something for a kid, it might make his day, make his year, and I don't know. It's just pretty cool how it's come full circle.
It's awesome. Let's just talk about this past year. You guys, 2 fairly successful teams. I know you both got eliminated by Edmonton, but getting into the playoffs in the Western League is a tough place to be at, and you guys were able to do that. Yourself, I think, if I'm remembering right, like you broke a hometown boys record in terms of the most goal production this year. So by all statistical accounts, you had a great season. And then you and your situation in Saskatchewan, you didn't get much ice time in the playoffs and all those different things. So being brothers, being competitive, wanting to be the best for each other, how do you guys mentally, like, obviously you want the best for him, he wants the best for you, but really you guys were, in some regards, it was a really different season for you mentally. What was some of the things that you guys did to help get through the season and keep pushing towards excellence?
I would say it's just the people around you who have been there forever, right? For me, it was our dad, I guess. He kind of helped me out a lot, when you're feeling down, or, it's your first year, so you kind of go in expecting to be, everyone goes into the Western League and they're the guy on their young team. And you kind of go in and you're like, hey, I'm just going to work my way up and I'm going to be there. And, you have to work hard, and, sometimes you get your opportunities, sometimes you don't. And, he kind of just helped me through that. And, I mean, it's tough mentally. There's a lot of games, there's a lot of road trips, there's a lot of time on the bus. But, also the guys around you, because there's a lot of guys who go through the same experiences as you at the same time, or they all did before you, right? So lots of guys don't always step in, and they're, right at the top of the lineup, and they're getting the opportunities, and, they're producing, right? So everyone kind of goes through it, and you kind of have to just like lean on each other or your support system. And, I honestly, I'm really happy with how the year went. It wasn't, ideal to any standard, but I got some time in. I played the majority of the regular season. I kind of learned, what not to do, what to do, and I kind of just got like familiar with, how everything runs, right? So
that's important your first year for sure.
I mean, I went through it. I did the same thing, except for my rookie season was only 24 games, which I think it actually benefited me more that way, especially on a mental level, to not have to endure the grind of the season every day like my brother did here.
Right.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, you lean on people that you grew up with, people that your family, my dad especially, and I mean, I used to lean on my grandpa Bob a lot too, so.
Right.
But, I mean, it was a pretty special year for myself personally. I mean, anytime you can get talked about with people who have played in the past on the Warriors is pretty cool.
Right.
And, I mean, it was pretty successful, and, I mean, we were on completely different ends of the spectrum, but, I don't know, I tried to help him out as much as I could, and I took his ideas once in a while too. I mean, he dashed me up in the last game of the year, so. But I mean, it was a successful year for the both of us, and I think as you move along in your hockey career, you figure out the things that work for you and the things that say work for other people but say don't work as well for you.
Right. In the summertime, you're out at Calvert, you're doing the Prairie Performance Program with Prairie Hockey and with Dustin and getting all that taken care of. During the season, when you play each other, there might be some of that rivalry, but in the summertime, like, how are you guys pushing each other in the gym and in your training, and how is that looking?
There still is that rivalry. I don't think it ever really leaves. I mean, it might be a little less now because we're just out there together, but I don't know. We got a good group of guys that like to be competitive and like to keep summer skates pretty light and fun and keep a good attitude, as well as pushing each other hard out there. And I mean, I think this is our third year, right?
Yeah, 3 or 4. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Third year with Dustin, and he's great. I think he's both had a pretty huge impact on both our hockey careers. Just with getting the most out of the summer compared to what we were doing before.
Right.
But, yeah.
And talk about that difference, like when you guys are, say you're U15 and you're, the 15 elites, I think you played that with Prairie, and how you trained then compared to 2 or 3 years later, how you're training now. Like, so if I'm a 14-year-old kid that's coming to Prairie this year and I'm looking at training, what were you doing when you were getting ready for your U15 season compared to what you're doing now? What has changed?
Dustin does a lot of single leg stuff. So when you're skating on the ice, you only use one leg, right? So, and I think anytime you can build a good foundation, which Dustin had to do with us, build a good solid foundation of your whole body before you start moving on to more difficult lifts and other things such as turf days and getting faster and making sure that your mechanics are right. I think that was the biggest thing with especially speed training and lifting, is making sure that you're doing the lift or doing the speed training the right way before you move on to a more difficult way. That's what I would say.
Yeah, like in terms of, just doing, I guess it's going to sound weird, but doing what you hate, because when you're younger, you find what you're good at. And it was like, in the gym, like, I'm really good at pull-ups. Like, I love doing pull-ups and upper body, or it's like, I'm really good at leg lifts, so I'm not going to, or it's like, I don't like to run, so I'm going to do minimal cardio, or when we do cardio, I'm going to dog it. Like, you kind of got to just learn to do what you hate.
Yeah.
And, like, that's what you need to do to get better, right? So everyone kind of needs to work on what they need to work on, and we all kind of end up meeting in the middle. Like, everyone in our group is similar in all the things we do, like all the lifts, all that. So it's just kind of finding what you need to work on yourself and make those sacrifices, whether it's in the gym or it's away from the gym with your diet or with your lifestyle, that kind of thing, right? So just making sacrifices and doing what you need to do to make you catch up to the rest, and still obviously maintaining what you're good at and working on that as well.
Right.
Yeah, and I think everyone develops at a different rate, right? So I mean, when you're a 14-year-old kid, like some kids are already like men, and whereas other kids aren't, right?
Yeah.
So I think as you get older, like as you get to your 17, 18, 19-year-old, everyone kind of meshes together, and that's what I've kind of noticed too, especially with junior, is that, I mean, the 20-year-olds are going to be the 20-year-olds, but like other than that, everyone else is pretty similar in their fitness level or their physique and how they go about their day.
Right. Awesome. I love it. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about your first NHL camp, Western League camp, those experiences, sort of a day in a life, what those look like. And then we'll start to talk about parents and culture and how that interweaves into the sport. Back from break. Welcome back to the Win All Day Everyday podcast presented by Prairie Hockey Academy. I'm joined by the Calvert brothers, who are right here in Moose Jaw with the Moose Jaw Warriors and the Saskatchewan Blades. And this segment, we just want to talk about your experiences at your first kind of big camps. Obviously, you go through minor hockey and you're, playing on U15, U18, or back in the day called Bantam Midget. But talk about your first Western League camp and what that was like. Were you scared? Was there guys that you looked up to maybe growing up and saw like, oh man, I'm going to get killed out here? But just talk briefly about your first Western League experience.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I got drafted. My second year Bantam got kind of shut off during COVID there. So I got drafted when we were, kind of just sitting at home. I wasn't sure. I had a good year, but my team didn't do very good and was playing in a smaller city in the league. So I wasn't sure, how it was going to go. I think I talked to maybe 3 teams, just like those little questionnaires that they send out through email, right? So the Blades happened to be one of them, and I think they picked me pretty late, ninth round, end of the 9th round there. So I was ecstatic, actually. I think I cried. So
That's awesome.
because he never got picked, so I was just super happy. So the fact that some team took a chance on me, and
Right.
So going into camp, the first year I would have went at 15, but there was no camp, right? Because
Right.
they went into the bubble or whatever, the
Yeah.
hub or whatever. So I actually played my 15-year-old year at Prairie there, and we kind of didn't really play games, but turned out to be a good decision because we skated every day, and I got
Right.
that development time in. So
Yeah.
then the next year, they haven't had the draft yet because of the way that they did it for COVID. So there was no 15-year-olds at the camp. All the kids were 05 to, I think the 20-year-old year that year was the 01s. So
Right.
everyone was eligible to make the team, right? Because everyone was either 16 through 20. I knew as a late round guy, they probably wouldn't know much about me, maybe only one or two scouts and maybe the GM, but maybe not. So,
Yeah.
and I knew that I had an opportunity to show what I can do against everyone, not just the kids my age, but the kids who are 20 and the kids who are, drafted in the 17, 18 range, right? So I kind of went in, I was a little nervous, obviously, first real experience, and I just went for it kind of thing, right? So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be first in all the drills. I'm gonna do, because I was confident in myself, but I just wasn't sure if they were confident in me, kind of thing, right? So I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna battle. I'm gonna be hard to play against.
Yeah.
I might not be out there scoring goals every game in the scrimmages or anything, but I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna play the right way. And at the end of the camp, I ended up getting to stay for a week and practice with the post-camp team or whatever. I still wasn't signed,
Right.
so didn't get any preseason action, got sent home. But yeah, you kind of just have to go for it. Even if you're a camp invite or you're a first-round pick, like, everyone's the same, right? They're all wearing the same jerseys, your name's on the back. Like, just kind of take it as your opportunity and kind of run for it, right? You don't want to be scared. You don't want to ease yourself into it because you never know, like, you have a bad camp or because you're scared or you're unconfident and maybe you never get another chance, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to, I kind of just went for it, and gladly they noticed me as a potential player, and went back to midget, had a good start to the year, and ended up earning a contract and playing some games. But I mean, like, camp was scary, but you kind of just have to give her. And like I say, if you're not trying your hardest, like, what's the point of being out there, right?
Yeah.
So
Sounds like your dad, you talk about both, you guys reference Jeff. I used to play against your dad, by the way, so I'm feeling really old right now, sitting here talking to his boys. But what you just talked about sounds like that's some sage advice from Jeff. Like, obviously he's been dripping on you guys about some of that. Like, just be 100%, be the guy at the front line in those drills and have that confidence. Like, is that some of the stuff he's shared with you over the time?
yeah, I think not really, like, verbally, right? We kind of just pick up on what he does.
Right.
And for example, like I said, my Bantam year, then we got shut down for COVID. Like, we were working out every day, and he gave sacrifices. He ended up buying whole gym equipment so we could work out at home in the garage.
Right.
And he would work out every day with us. Like, awesome. He's like older guy, right? So it was like, I don't know, I was still pretty raw. I was like 14, and
right.
He was training, he was a little older. He was probably my age. So,
yeah.
But yeah, he was in there every day, and like, he's like just bagging himself. Like,
That's great.
He was always there, and he'd always show up. He did everything we did.
Yeah.
He didn't care. He was just out there giving her, right? And he kind of just installed that in us. And obviously, he kind of had some obviously rough times when he was, trying to make it. And as a smaller guy as well, playing goal. So yeah, I think just kind of rubbing off, not really, a verbal, like, that's what you got to do. But we kind of just learned from both our parents, like, that's how you live life, and that's how you be successful, both in sport and in life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Talk about the NHL experience. You've been to 2 camps, last 2 summers. Like, what, you go from, sort of your brother's experience about a Western League camp, and not that we want to discount what you did here at Moose Jaw, but like, talk about that experience about going to Pittsburgh's camp and even Buffalo last year. What does that look like for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I was kind of in the same boat as my bro here. Like, it's obviously another level up, but I think it was the same kind of idea. Just go there and do the best you can and come home with no regrets, basically.
That's
like,
great.
Don't feel like you left nothing on the table. I think that was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
When I was 18, I didn't get a development camp invite, so I was pretty upset about that. I mean, I've been not invited to a lot of things before, right? I think I just kind of tried to use that as motivation.
Right.
And working out at Calvert. And then when my 18-year-old, or last summer, I got an invite from Buffalo to go to their rookie prospect camp, which I think was the best thing for me. So yeah, I went in, basically just tried to soak everything I could in, and I think at the same time, you got to try and make an impression, right, of what you do off the ice, on the ice. I think at those camps or at the Western League level, you're always under the microscope. I think, your first day you get there and it's bang, 6 a.m. wake-up call for medicals and fitness testing, and you don't get back to your hotel room until 8 o'clock that night. So you're basically around the rink the whole time, and I think you feel like a pro, and I think that's what they make it. That's how they make you a player, basically, and help mold you and give you an idea of what you have to do to get to the same level as some of their guys that are there right now. And I think that's what I learned the most out of Buffalo, and I used some of that in when I went to Pittsburgh this year. I think it was obviously a different team, different camp, but at the same time, they just got new management with Dubas there, and they basically said, like, you come in, you have a good camp, you never know what can happen, right? So I was basically, and I never went to a development camp last year, so I was just trying to earn my spot in the rookie tournament, because I knew they had to go, and they go to the same rookie tournament that I was in last year in Buffalo. They were just a different team, obviously, in that tournament, but basically just go there, try and earn a spot on their rookie tournament team, and I think, the one day, it was like I was at camp and I ran into Sid. And I think
just casually ran into him. Like on the ice, he crashed, or just off the ice?
It was like the last day at development camp, and I think it was by design. They had him working out as we were rolling into the warm up, and then,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was like, holy, like, I'm basically like, that's it, and then I'm whatever. I'm obviously at their rookie development camp, but at some point he was there too, right?
For sure, yeah.
So
it's a good perspective.
It's a good perspective to have, and I think just motivated me a little more on that last day of the 3-on-3 tournament, even a little bit. So, but that was probably the highlight, and camp went well, and I came home feeling pretty good about myself and about my game that I displayed there.
That's great. Good. Well, we're going to take one more break here, and when we come back, we're going to now talk about parents and their involvement, and even just how you guys have talked about how your parents have had the fingerprint on your careers. We'll talk about that a little bit, as well as head into some Grandpa B story time. So that's next segment. See you in a minute. All right, we're back from the break, and again, we're here with the Calvert brothers, and we're talking with them about their experiences in camps, whether it was at Prairie Hockey Academy and through U15 onto the Western League and onto some NHL experiences. And all throughout those opportunities, you get chances to be around other teammates, and of course, other teammates have parents attached to them. And so I'm sure over the years, you guys have seen some real wild and crazy experiences where parents have just been like over the top and crazy, but maybe you've also just had some great support parents where my wife and I, we raised 3 boys, and all 3 of them they're different cats, but we always told them when you're growing up, whatever you want to do, whether you're playing football or wanting to take piano lessons or drum or whatever, is that whatever you're doing, if you're doing it 100%, like you're giving your best effort all the time, then your mom and I are going to do all we can to provide. We'll pick up extra jobs, we'll do whatever we can. We'll put the equipment and the opportunity in front of you, but you're never going to quit. Whatever you start this year, you got to finish the year with, and you got to give us your best effort. And if you do that, we'll support you to the best of our ability. And that's when I think of parents that are out there, and if I can give encouragement to parents that might be listening today, and you think maybe you've got like an 8-9-year-old prodigy, there might be that tendency to be overbearing and just super protective, and I think a lot of times that might take some of the fun out of it. I think just providing the opportunity and providing the tools for them to play with, I think is probably the biggest thing that from our experience raising our boys, and having the chance to coach all over Europe and here in North America and different places, I've seen a lot of really bad parent behavior. But talk about your parents and how they've engaged with you guys, whether it's in hockey or maybe there's other sports that you guys have done. What have they done? You've sort of alluded to it during COVID. Your dad went and bought a whole gym outfit for you.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's been other sacrifices they've made. Talk about how your parents have supported you and what that's meant to you.
Yeah, I think our parents are awesome. Mom and Dad are awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
And they basically said, whatever you start, you finish, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna do something, you do it right, and we'll support you till the end, basically. And I mean, going back to the gym thing, I mean, our whole mom, dad, sister, whole family was working out during COVID, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, I think they just tried to instill us with lessons that we can use throughout our whole life, and I think that does translate to sport as well, but also I think the life lessons that we have learned from them has been huge, and they've also given us an opportunity to excel in things what we love, and I mean, without them we wouldn't be here. So
it's kind of just, I don't know, they support us and they do whatever they can for us, right? Not just the two of us, but our sister as well, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, going back to the gym thing, train at home, during COVID when no one else was, right? Yeah. So, and that gym is still being used today. I think he was in there when we left. So,
that's good. It's a good investment.
And even our mom, she's a registered dietitian at the hospital, so she was always, making sure that not only we're training right and we're also eating right. We have the right food in the house.
Okay, yeah.
We're making good choices and that kind of thing, right? So I think it's really important that, they just supported us and wanted us to be our best, whatever we're doing. And no matter what happens, they're there for us. And, they weren't too overprotective. They still let us be kids. Yeah. And a lot of times when we would go on away trips when we were younger, lots of kids were hitting the pool all the time. I always thought Dad doesn't want me hitting the pool. I got to be dialed in for the game. But I feel honestly, it was something that he instilled in us is that you want it, what you love, go for it. Yeah. I think he would have been totally fine if I was bombing up and down the water slide with all my buddies, but he kind of just taught me to be
ready,
focus on what you really want to do, and I think it's great. And at the same time, they let us be kids, and we made the same mistakes as other kids and did the same stupid stuff as other kids when we were young. But they kind of, let us be kids, but at the same time had us focus on what was really important. Made sure we were good in school, made sure whatever we were doing, we were trying our best. So.
Yeah. North America and Canada in particular, I think Canada's got somewhere around 3,500 ice rinks across the country, and pretty much that means every small town's got a rink. Every small town's got a minor hockey team, and so sometimes you just don't have an abundance of coaches that are there. So a lot of times dads or sometimes moms end up coaching the team. Have you guys played any of your minor hockey or any experiences where you've had a dad coach, maybe it wasn't your dad, but maybe it was another dad on the team, and was that a good experience? Was it bad? We're not looking for names. We're just, just kind of.
Dad coached us.
Okay.
When we were young.
Yeah.
When we were young, but
I think he coached me till I was in Pee-wee.
Not me.
Okay.
Not me. He's the first one, right? So he probably got his fair share of parents complaining and Adam and Pee-wee. But yeah, growing up, we always had parent coaches in minor hockey.
Yeah.
Every year.
That's the younger groups
coach,
for
right?
sure. Yeah.
So all the way up to my second year baton was parent coach. So some do better at it than others, and obviously they're doing it for everyone, not just their kid, but all the other kids. So all kudos to them, right? Because lots of parents, lots of dads are no way. Right. So good for them and for stepping up and doing it. So some experiences are better than others, and a lot of times they're not the most knowledgeable, but as long as they're trying their best, and I mean it's probably about as good as most of them can do. But it's good that parents still step up and do that.
For sure.
Yeah. And I mean, as young kids, we really haven't had anything else. like especially growing up here. Like
Yeah.
I think the only year that I wasn't coached by a parent before I came to Prairie was my first year in Bantam, because I came to Prairie my second year.
Right.
But all the way up to then, it was my dad and then Jason Peters, like Ethan Peters' dad.
Okay.
So they would run the bench, and I mean, and your dad's up there barking at you sometimes. it's like, come on, Dad. But at the same time, they know, like, we were lucky because they both played, right? So they kind of had an idea of what they were talking about. So but I mean, still look back to that and I was like, dang, my dad coached me.
And my dad coached me. I think, like you said, I think everyone's had a chance to maybe be coached by a parent or a close friend, and and I think at some point you get to that that U15, that AAA level, that now it's real bullets in terms of we need to make sure that it's a coach that knows how to run the practice properly and is more professionally trained and stuff like that. And that's probably some of the experience that you guys would have got at PHA, right? Like that. Now you're at a new level. You're playing in a league across Western Canada. I mean, it still happens. There's Western League coaches that their kids play. There's NHL coaches that have their kids play, right? So it's not like it doesn't happen, but I think for the most part that you want that to happen. I know, for me growing up, I still remember my dad, this is back in the day we could still smoke in the arenas, right? And there'd be this blue haze in the Estevan Auditorium everywhere because everyone's smoking. But my dad, he would, on the back of his Players Light smoke package, he would write notes on there. And then on the drive home, he would be like, hey, Barrett, like, you got to remember this is, do this and that. And sometimes it'd be like, Dad, I don't want to talk about it. But other times it was like, yeah, this is like, no one else is talking to me. Like, I didn't have any other coach. Like, my dad would just kind of make it up on the fly and just wanted the best for me, right? And, even... This is back when like VCRs used to be you guys don't even know what a VCR is maybe, but a video cassette recorder. There used to be this big machine that you put a cassette tape into, and then you put a strap on it. My dad had a camera. So this is back in like the mid 80s, and Dad's like filming games, and then we'd come home and put it on the reel and watch it in the hallway, and Dad'd be like, you see where like you should have been in this lane here. So I had that, but I don't think I would have wanted anything different because my dad showed me along the way that, these are things that you can improve upon. But, same thing when I left home at 15, now you want a coach that is able to take you to that next level. And so talk about that, now that your Prairie hockey experience, what was that like kind of going from minor hockey to an academy coach?
I think it was awesome. Yeah, I mean, the coaching aspect was completely different, and I think just the fact of being on the ice every day. I mean, as a 14-year-old kid, I went out there. We only would practice twice a week in Moose Jaw, where we get to skate every day and have a blast with your buddies. Because I mean, it's a team aspect, and it was that was the biggest thing. I think skating every day and then getting the teaching and coaching that Prairie provided. I mean, we're still out there today, like, learning from the same guys that coached us when we were 14. Like, we still joke around with the coaches that coached us when we were younger, saying and talking about how we were doing the same drill when we were 14, right? So, I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, it's a bit of, like, it's a new experience, right? So, and those guys they're coaches. They're not just dads who, are just volunteering their time or... coming from a different job, like those guys that's what they do. So, it was just big, and it's the reps and doing everything every day, lots. So, and there's a lot of great coaches out there, and there's even more now. So, and it's cool we're still at the same spot, skating at the same rink, dressing in the same dressing rooms as we were when we were little kids, right? So,
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like a full circle thing, and those same guys are still barking at us for the same things that we did wrong when we were 14. So
and I think that my challenge or my comment, just to, if you're a parent out there listening, and whether your kid maybe got shafted by the game because you didn't get picked on a certain team, or if you feel that your kid is a star and needs more ice time, whatever's in between that. I think the biggest thing that I'm hearing from you guys and my own experiences is that if you're a parent. And in any sport, this isn't just a hockey thing, is make sure they're having fun. Do whatever you can to help guide them. Like, provide and guide probably is the two biggest words, right? Like, provide the network of coaches and training and nutrition that they can have. But don't be so overbearing that they hate the game when they're 19 and 20 and never want to pick up a hockey stick again. Make sure that it's fun. And so sometimes that means that you might have to just back off and let them, be a boy for a little bit and go ride their bike or skateboard or whatever. But at the same time, making sure that if they need that help, that you're there to continue to guide them, right? So I think that'd be my biggest challenge. There's lots of players that I've come across over the years that their parents have been so overbearing that I know for a fact, and we're not talking about names, we're not trying to destroy people here, but there's been parents who have ruined their son or daughter's opportunity to go to the next level because a scout or a coach at that next level is like, oh, the kid might be okay, but I'm not sure I want the headache of the parent, right? And so that would be my challenge to our audience out there today, is just let your boy or girl, when whatever activity or sport that they're doing, we're talking about hockey, so within the sport of hockey, provide for them and guide them. Don't be overbearing. Take that humble, hardworking servant, like that sort of that Saskatchewan mentality of just being humble, hardworking people, and you'll continue to open doors instead of slamming them shut with your poor behavior or poor attitude. We're going to jump right into our segment we call Grandpa B Story Time, and full transparency, I was one of those crazy coaches. Crazy coach / parent. I remember one time my middle son Josh was, all my kids did Kids of Steel. And it's like Ironman triathlons, but like shorter distances for kids. I don't know if you've had a chance to do anything like that when you're younger, but all three of our boys did it. And I was like super intense dad. Like I was guide and provide. Like I was gonna, if you give me everything you got, we'll get you the bikes, we'll get you the shoes, whatever you need to swim 500 meters, bike 10, run 2 kilometers, like just kind of age appropriate stuff. And we're at this event in Saskatoon, whatever, Kids of Steel. And you've got the Kids of Steel event goes first. So maybe 9-year-old boys and girls are getting ready for the race and their bikes are in this rack. And then as soon as those kids are done, then the parent or the adults do their version of it. And of course, everyone that wants to do a triathlon is just super intense and focused, because they're doing a lot longer distances. And I was being over the top crazy guy, and I wanted to be out. I didn't want to be down by the water where the swimming was happening. I wanted to make sure that the transition was going to go smooth for the boys and making sure that everything was going to happen good there. And a couple of other kids come out of the water, and they're coming out of the water, and I'm like, where the heck? Where's Josh? What happened? And so finally he come out of the water, and I'm yelling at him from across the parking lot. I'm like, Josh, run! Get over here onto your bike! And I'm just being the obnoxious dad. And he just kind of lumbers over and sort of sheepishly, whatever, hops on his bike, and he's out. And so now you got to wait for him to go 5K out and then ride back 5K. And so I'm waiting, and normally he's back a lot quicker. In the meantime, an adult had come in and parked their bike in his bike parking spot. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, Josh should be coming in now, but this person just parked in a stall. I'm yelling at them, you got to get your bike out of here, the kids haven't finished. And I'm just making a fool of myself in the parking lot. But at the time, I was just being the intense dad. And then sure enough, Josh comes in and he's got enough room to park his bike and runs the race. And I find out afterwards that the reason he had slowed down and didn't even want to hop on his bike was because he didn't finish the swim segment. He actually. So here I was making this big fuss about everything, and it was sort of one of those moments I was like, okay, B, you got to dial it back. Yes, you got to guide and provide, but don't be the obnoxious kid or the dad that drives your kid out of sport or hates you at the end of the year or whatever. And so I think for my younger son Jacob, when he got involved into hockey and football and different things, I was way tamer. I was way more balanced in how I approached it, and that's just been my approach sort of ever since, to just kind of be that guide and provide guy. Over the years, coaching at the university and junior and pro levels for myself, I've had the opportunity to engage with some parents, but in healthy conversations, more so of what's the game plan to get my son or daughter back from injury, or as we're heading into the second half of the season, where do you see my son or daughter fitting in, and some of those different aspects, right? Whereas, any parent that wanted to just tear a strip off me. Sometimes I'd give them the time of day to do that. But usually that's not going to solve the problem. I'd rather have a conversation with your son or daughter and have that sort of mature leader type conversation about what do you think you have done to deserve that ice time, as opposed to having your dad or grandpa yell at me over the phone or in some nasty email saying that like I'm scum of the earth coach, right? It's much better to have that maturity transfer, that trust transfer for the athlete to come and talk to the coach as opposed to the parent. So that'd be my challenge, my encouragement to parents out there if you're wondering what to do with your kid, is just guide and provide. And some of that guidance would be, why don't you go and talk to your coach if you think you need more ice time, or ask him what you could be doing differently. I think that's the best approach to help parents navigate the road for their kids moving forward. So thanks for your time. Really appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedules, and probably gave up a golf game this afternoon or something to be here. But Prairie performance is continuing on throughout the summer. This next week is going to be a week off, and then you're back at it for 3 more weeks. There still are spots available, so there's information at the bottom of the page here. You can sign up for that. We got our summer camps for different age groups, the hitting camps, the stick handing, the D camp. Are all taking place. Lots of room for registrations there, as well as Prairie Hockey Academy as we compete in the CSSHL. That season's coming up in September. I know on the U15 team, the prep team, we've got 2 spots still available. If you're sitting out there as a parent wondering, should I continue to have my son or daughter, or coached at, in some small town, and you're driving an hour and a half in each direction to get to those practices, I would strongly encourage them to consider giving us a call and saying, hey, what are the opportunities for one of those 2 spots? And the same thing goes with our U17 teams and our U18. There's just a couple of spots left. And I know that our coaches are out there working hard to find that right culture fit, making sure that it's the right person to come in and be part of our program. So if you are out there and you're interested, make sure you get in touch with us. Until next week, have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.